everyone, and welcome to Autonomous Dev Revolution, where we talk all things related to developer experience, developer activity, and tools that help software engineers improve both. On today's show, we're going to be joined by two guests who have built something really cool with the Minecraft world. I'm here with Logan Bell, who is a freelance web developer, and his partner in crime, Remy from YouTube fame, also known as Legitimoose. Together, they've created a platform that combines Minecraft gameplay with professional development tools. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks
for having us.
Yes.
Yeah, great to have you guys here. So first, let's just go ahead and start with some introductions. So Logan, Remy, tell us a little bit about yourselves. I understand that you guys have some pretty interesting backgrounds.
Yeah, you want me to take this one?
Yeah, why
Or at
don't you
least start it off?
Yeah, start it off.
So we've known each other since around 2011, 2012.
Mm-hmm.
We met through the homeschool community. We were both homeschooled, and the local community has get-togethers. We met at what they call a park day, which is where we just hang out at the park for socialization, getting to meet other people, chatting face to face. Since then, we've been friends. We've worked on various projects. We've worked on. We've basically done most things together for most of our lives. Let's see. We had a college radio show together a few years back. It was called "The Future Is Now." We'd do sometimes we just play music. Sometimes we'd come up with more elaborate, like radio play skits, where we'd have scripts and we'd have a whole performance with it. More recently, because we have an interest in technology and I work in it. You're also interested in it. We do all sorts of things related to tech. We have to be rock climbers, as is the stereotype. So we go bouldering together. We like to do that. Yeah, what am I forgetting?
That's pretty much it. Met through homeschooling, worked on a bunch of projects together. We always had kind of similar interests and somewhat complementary skill sets. So it's worked out really well.
That's a history. So y'all met 2011. You went from homeschooling, you're into bouldering together. Now you're just kind of tech bros. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, in a somewhat stereotype of a tech bro, we got our startup and we do rock climbing and
Well, and Remy, as I understand it, you've got quite a significant kind of YouTube following going around Minecraft content. You're up to like 94,000 subscribers to your channel now. What's it like being a Minecraft YouTube superstar?
It's pretty cool. It's kind of what I had always wanted since I was a kid. I grew up watching Minecraft videos and learning a lot about programming from people who taught stuff through Minecraft coding tutorials. And at some point around 2020, I went to go back and learn some more of the newer stuff. And I was like, there's just a huge void in the market here of quality education. And so I started making tutorials and stuff. And then that kind of evolved into making more essay stuff and just kind of technical content around Minecraft.
And is this what you do? Is this kind of your main gig right now?
It is my main gig, my main source of income.
I find it, I don't know if y'all probably haven't seen many of the episodes, but Coder got its start in Minecraft. We did a customer, kind of a community interview last time where they got their start in Minecraft as well. It's interesting to me that Minecraft is kind of creating this new technology boom. There's so many people getting started. Minecraft is what gets them into development. I mean, is that really kind of what started you guys, was Minecraft? Is that what got you into development?
I got into development actually a little bit before Minecraft, just to make mods for video games. I was modding this old indie game called Cave Story, which is still my favorite game other than Minecraft. But then I learned some game engines using like block coding, Scratch type stuff. And then it was like, all right, Minecraft time.
Yep. And I remember, I think it was in pre-interview, you were telling us that when you were doing video games, you thought you had to draw each video game a frame at a time, right?
Yeah, I was like, how do they do it? Because I figured they were just like, all right, if you press these buttons in this order, you show these pictures. And so I thought they had to draw an infinite number of frames. And I was just like, how does anyone even make a video game?
Right? And Logan, you're juggling quite a few things as well. I mean, you're doing web development, you're doing IT, podcast production. You even got some things going on with security at festivals and events.
Yeah, totally. In around 2020, I realized that I could take what I've been doing as a hobby, which is tech in general, but then also I was making my own websites for fun. I was learning how different servers work, how you architect the whole thing. And then I realized that the skill set I developed actually has applications in the real world, and there are people willing to pay me at my skill level to make websites for them. And so I started doing freelance web development, mainly small businesses, word of mouth in my local area that wanted basic websites, and worked my way up from there. I also have the skill sets to do IT, because I am the designated IT person in my household, because I have an interest in it. And so my same clients who require web development also will be like, and I need this help. My computer is broken. I need my email client configured. I'm like, I can do that. You want to pay me to do that? That's fine with me. Don't go to Geek Squad.
Right.
And then same thing with podcast production. We had the radio show together, which most of those skills are transferable directly to podcast production. And so I had a client who was like, I want to start a podcast. Can you do these things? Because the guy I have over here who wants to do it is going to charge me way more for that, and I only need something basic. And I said, that's fine with me. I can do that. And then to touch on the festival and event security, I've always liked the back end of events, like the logistics and actually how it's run. It started out with when I was, I don't know, 13, 14, I decided that instead of like a traditional birthday party or get together, I wanted to run a conference. And so yeah. I pull Remy in, and I'm like, we're running this thing. We're running this conference. I asked my parents for, I'm like, hey, whatever like you would have spent on like, I don't know, food, like going out to eat for my birthday or something. I'm like, can I just have that? And I can spend it on making this event happen. And I did that, and I did it for, I don't know, 3-4 years, something like that.
Yeah.
It got larger and more elaborate each time. You check in, you get your lanyard with your name badge. We'd have a schedule up. We'd have breaks. We'd have a whole shindig about it. And yeah, that was fun. And then I took that and I started volunteering at actual events, which aren't just me and 20 of my closest friends goofing off somewhere. Where I'll volunteer at like festivals or like conventions, doing really whatever they need. If they need IT help, I'll do IT help. If they need, a body in a room to make sure things don't get rowdy, I'll be a body in a room to make sure things don't get rowdy. And yeah, I really enjoy that.
Man, you gave me so much to unpack right there. I mean,
this tells you a lot about him as a person, and also why I have him as a partner in this project.
Oh my goodness gracious! So I get the whole, I'm my family's IT. I think everybody that's in IT, their family comes to them for quick questions.
Can you fix the printer?
Can you fix the printer?
Yeah, my email doesn't work, right? But you, how old? So you did a conference as a birthday party?
Yeah, for a few years, instead of hosting a birthday party, I hosted a conference for the people I knew, and then like I needed more attendees, so I said you can bring a +1.
Yeah.
And so it was like my circle +1, and they'd show up. We'd have schedules.
There were panels.
Remy here actually, wrote most of the schedules. I'd wrote people into doing different panels. We'd just have basically a variety of things. We'd have shows. We'd have something called The Shop, where you were to you go into a room with a bunch of identically wrapped brown paper packages, which you would buy with fake currency, and it had the wildest assortment of items in them, all the way from, let's see, we had like a build your own blanket fort kit on one end to pressure gauges, like industrial pressure gauges on the other end. You don't know what you get.
Right.
But everyone walked out of there with a few odds and ends.
Man, so not only did that set you up for technology, I'm not going to lie, I kind of want to party with you guys because that sounds like a lot of fun. You know, I'm going to go build my own blanket for it. Hell yeah, that's awesome. Okay. Well, I feel like I could almost probably do a whole show just on Logan's, you know, birthday party conferences.
Oh, you so could.
Oh my goodness gracious. That's a lot to unpack there. So, okay. So we go from your bouldering partners, you go from birthday conferences to a college radio show together. I mean, it sounds like you two have been pretty much inseparable since y'all met. Have y'all always kind of had this thread of wanting to just build stuff together and do these things together? Sounds like it.
I would say so, yeah. Logbuck, I don't know what you think, but I feel like we've pretty much always worked on things together. I've always had projects going, and I always try to rope in the people around me. And Logbug, Logan, I'm going to use those interchangeably.
Yeah, that's fine.
He's always been like just ridiculously diligent and reliable, and also a lot of the times willing to sift through the weeds of stuff that scare me away when it's like, okay, now we have this idea for this project, but that means we're going to be hosting people's files on our server. Like, how do we deal with that? How do we make sure that that's locked down and everything? And he's the guy that I'm like, all right, he'll figure that stuff out.
It's
You
like
know,
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm definitely the one that that's harder to get on board. Remy's gotten good at selling me on projects over the years because he'll come to me with it and I'll be like, oh, is that really worth it? Do we really want to do that? And then usually he ends up roping me into it.
So there's this quote by FDR that says, you know, if anybody ever asks you if you can do something, your answer should be, hell yes, I can. And then you go study it and figure it out. And that sounds like you kind of embody that, Logan.
Yeah, pretty much. I go, this sounds cool. I want this to happen. I want to be able to do it. That sounds fun. I'm going to figure out how to do it. We're going to get it done.
All right. Well, and so y'all were telling me kind of one of y'all's first big projects was a Minecraft server called Fancy Game back in like 2014. Yep. Again, indeed. I love the fact that, you know, all of this tech is coming back around to a game, to Minecraft specifically. But tell me a little bit about Fancy Game and what y'all did on that one.
So in 2018, 2014, sorry, I was like 12, 13 years old, and Minecraft had just gone through a bunch of updates that really expanded what you could do within the vanilla game, like without mods or anything, the sort of in-game programming tools with command blocks. And so I was like, oh, I could make my own server just like the ones that people play on. I could make like mini games and stuff. And so I basically went all in on that. And of course, I roped in Logan. And we had probably 10 people total play it over the like year or two that we worked on it. And 10 strangers. We had all of our friends on it all the time. Right. But, you know.
And was it Fancy Game that kind of got your start in YouTube? Is that where you started creating?
No, it was around the same time that I was doing YouTube originally, when I was like publishing a Minecraft Let's Play that is now gone. But no, I never even posted that to YouTube, but it was what got me really into kind of coding with the vanilla tools in Minecraft.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I understand. So you got started on that. You started doing your YouTube content. I apologize. And you started seeing some of these comments come through about people having a hard time, you know, being able to develop. Was that kind of your aha moment? Is that kind of what got y'all started on what you're working on now?
Yeah. So I was making tutorials teaching people how to make data packs, which is kind of the inbuilt scripting language. It's not full on modding. It's built into the game. Okay. And I was making tutorials for that. And I found that the one video that was getting all of the confused comments was just my basic project setup tutorial, where I was like, here's how you configure your IDE. Here's how you have to name all these folders. Because it's really, honestly, quite daunting if you're a new developer without the tech literacy to, like, maybe you don't even know how file systems work. Probably most of the people who watched that tutorial didn't. And so people were always just like, I don't know what to do. It won't work. And it was always just because they had renamed a file wrong, or there was a small typo. And I was like, man, if I could just provide people with like a pre-made solution to this, like just an out of the box, it's a website you go to and it's got a coding environment, like that would be perfect.
And this is what you brought to Logan. So Logan, when Remy brought this idea to you and said, hey, I'm seeing a lot of the new players, a lot of the guys that really want to get into this, they're having a hard time, they're struggling getting up. Let's try to create something to help these guys out.
Mm-hmm.
What was your initial reaction to this?
My initial reaction is, as mine usually is, I need a little bit of convincing. I'm like, okay, that sounds great. How are we going to do it? What is the idea here? And if I remember correctly, you came to me and you pitched, you're like, all right, it's a server, everyone gets their own world, and then that world, we have some way of interfacing it with a web browser you're like, ideally it's VS Code, but if not, we make your own thing. Just a text editor in the browser that they can write their own code in. And I said, okay, I don't know as much about the Minecraft side as you do, so as long as you take care of that, I don't have to touch the Java end of it. I'll stay on my end of it with the web part of it. And so we looked into it. Originally, Remy, you came to me and you were like, we just use the Monaco editor portion of VS Code and we'll write our own dev environment. And we worked on that for, I don't know what, a day or two, and then we decided someone's got to have done this before. There's no way we're the first people to want to edit code in a browser. And so I spent, I think the next day looking through to see if I could find anything. And I don't know how it took me so long to find Code Server, but I did find it eventually. And there it was. And I'm like, this seems too good to be true. It's like exactly what we need. And it's here and it's open source and it runs in Docker. So we can easily integrate it with the rest of the project structure. And turns out it wasn't too good to be true. It was exactly what we were looking for.
That's awesome. Well, so let's talk about Code Server. For the listeners that are out there who may not be familiar, from your perspective, tell us exactly what this is and how it met your needs. You said it was exactly what you needed. Walk us through all the things that you were looking for that Code Server fit for you.
Yeah, Remy, do you remember your original requirement list you came to me with when you're like, it needs to do these things?
Yeah, I was like, it needs to be able to, one, be a decent text editor. It needs to be able to have some syntax highlighting, and it needs to have like a file tree. Because I was like, you just got to be able to write Minecraft commands.
Yeah, because we were trying to, basically break it down into what do people actually need to know how to do, or actually need in order to make their projects without overwhelming them with anything.
Yeah.
But when we saw that we could just have VS Code, which all the tutorials are already written for, all your content you've already produced has been in VS Code, all the extensions for Minecraft specific syntax highlighting and autocomplete are already there. And we saw this project where it just takes VS Code, packages it up, and then serves it to your web browser through wherever you're hosting it. Like, this is exactly it, because we need the files to be edited on the server, not on the user's machine. And then we also need to provide to them without them having to install anything or configure anything. We just need to work out of the box. So we can pre-configure it. They have access to the files that are already on the server. They can upload their own files if they need it. And it just works. It just spins up and it goes.
We're like, oh, wow, this is exactly what we needed.
Now, were y'all using VS Code before in the desktop? And that's kind of one of the things you're looking for? So
yeah, VS Code being the most popular IDE, it's what all of the Minecraft specific syntax highlighting extensions and stuff are for. And so when I saw that we could have literal VS Code in the browser, I was like, oh, that's perfect. That means we can already have like not even just a decent set of tools for beginners, but like the full set of tools that everyone's already used to.
Yep. And it's funny that you say this met all our needs. It was perfect because the founders of Coder, they went through that exact same process that you did. It's like, hey, we want to go in and we want to do some development, but we want to do it on the web. We want to make sure that we're syncing up with our teammates because their partners were distributed across the US and Canada. So it's almost like it's a parallel story between you guys and what our founders did when they came up with Code Server.
Yep.
Well, and I understand. So Logan, you found code server. It was everything that you needed. You said that you were able to have a proof of concept working in just a couple days. How did that feel to take this idea that Remy wanted to do and say, all right, you convinced me. A couple days later, here you go, man. I've got something for you. Let's go run with this.
Yeah, it was fantastic, because if I remember correctly, I kind of dropped off the face of the earth for 2 days. I like didn't really tell you anything. I'm like, okay, let me look into it. And I came back 2 days later, and I went, it works. Get on call with me right now.
You gave me no warning that you were even working. I pitched this idea to you like months ago, and you were like, I don't know how we would even do that, whatever. And then you just called me up one day and you were like, I have a prototype.
And I'm like, okay, hear me. Like, it all needs to be done manually, because I don't know how to work the Minecraft side of it. I'm like, but if you run these commands, it shows that it works. The networking works. Everything's containerized. It all goes. I think it can actually happen. And that was the moment where I'm like, no, we could do this. We could actually put this server out there, let people play on it, let people enjoy it. And it's not one of those like, oh, well, we could make it, but like it's going to sit in our back pocket and we'll show our friends, and that's about it.
Well, so, okay. Remy comes up with this idea. You give it to Logan. Logan drops off the face of the world for a couple of days. He goes out and builds his stuff. So while Logan was out working on the website of this, while he was doing all the put together and getting VS Code and finding code server, Remy, what were you tackling kind of on the Minecraft end?
Yeah, so once he sent me kind of the first prototype, it just had a basic REST API for controlling all the different features. And he pretty much just said, all right, now make it connect to Minecraft. And I was like, all right, on it, boss. And so thankfully, this was not my first kind of Minecraft server project. This was like my third or fourth kind of big attempt at a Minecraft server. And so I was pretty comfortable setting up like menus and stuff. So I had to take, obviously, the JSON data that he was giving me, like the lists of worlds, and then parse that into items that appear in a chest. And just making sure everything kind of worked, setting up like a queuing system. So when you tell the server to start up a world, you have a nice loading bar so that it feels like it's actually doing something. When I added the loading bar, I swear it cut the loading times in half just by having something to look at.
Yep, you're probably right. That watch pot never boils thing. I'm with you. Yeah.
And it was pretty complicated and pretty strange having to kind of wire this thing up manually, because I had Minecraft servers have a proxy that you connect to, and then that kind of forwards your information to multiple different Minecraft servers that are in the back end. But to the client, it looks like it's just one server. So I had kind of these two components. I had the code that runs on the proxy, and I had the code that runs on the Minecraft server. And the APIs that exist make it really hard for those two parts to talk to each other. So there was a lot of kind of information balancing of like, all right, who knows what? Who can get what information where? How is this stuff all getting passed around?
So how does y'all development flow kind of work? Because he handed it off to you and said, okay, here's a REST API. Now you've got to wire in all the menus. Did y'all get in and then y'all pair together, online? Did you work on your part, hand it over, just keep flipping back and forth? How did this work between you two?
We would call periodically, and when we were really locked in on working on it, like the couple of weeks or months before we launched it, we would have a daily stand-up for like 15 minutes where we'd just talk about what we were doing. And then usually, I think the flow was that I would say, all right, I need a feature that does this. He would go, all right. And then a day later, he'd send me a new build with a new couple endpoints, and then it would kind of be up to me to use his documentation and wire that up to Minecraft.
So y'all had daily stand-ups. Y'all were running this like a little company of two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we said, as soon as we had a deadline, a self-imposed deadline for launching it, we're like, all right, we're gonna heads down. We're doing like 12-hour days. We're gonna talk about what we need, and then we'll crank out commits every day, crank out new versions, and all because we wanted to do it. We liked the project. We thought it was cool. It was fun to do.
Yeah,
and so we were willing to commit this time with basically no guarantee of any sort of return on it, just because we like the project.
Right. Now, did y'all do an actual project plan for this? If you were committing, hey, we're going to do commits every day, you're doing your stand-up. Did y'all actually lay out a project plan for this, or is just this one of those ways to keep you guys in sync?
Yeah, we had like a equivalent to like a Trello board or something
Get out
with
of
a
town.
list of our things, and they were kind of sorted by priority and difficulty. And so we had like the Kanban board and all that kind of project management stuff. It was a little bit haphazard still, but we did have a list of things we needed before launch, like minimum viable product.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and he'd throw tasks in there where he's like, I found a bug. This bug is bad. You need to fix. And it's like assigned to me, red at the top. Work on it. And I'm like, okay, that's reasonable. That is a fairly bad bug.
All right. So which one of you guys is pushing the organization part of this? Who's the most organized here?
Oof. I feel traditionally it would be me,
Okay.
in terms of, but I think you said let's put a board together.
Yeah, I've been kind of the de facto project manager, even though Logan's the more organized person between the two of us.
Gotcha.
I've basically been spearheading the project management side of things, and for the most part, for the last year, the server's been kind of able to sustain itself with just updates to the Minecraft side. The API end hasn't needed a lot of work, but occasionally I'll go to Logan and be like, all right, we need new endpoints and stuff for our backup system.
Yep. I don't think that's unusual, right? You got the one guy that's more organized. You, Remy, came in. I'm guessing that you probably took some of that organization that Logan was pushing. It's like, all right, I need to keep up. The only way I'm going to keep up is put this stuff in damn writing somewhere, put it on a board so I can follow along with what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, and definitely you had like the vision of like you see the Minecraft side, but you're like, I know what this project needs to be, and so I couldn't really make those choices because I'm like, I don't have all the information I need to make to guide this project. So I'm like, that's on you. You know where it's going. You just gotta tell me what we need, and I will crank out endpoints.
Mm-hmm.
Now you mentioned the big red bug, right? Big red bug. You got to work on this. This is bad. You guys had mentioned in the pre-interview, some weird security edge cases. It sounds like there's a good story there.
Yeah. So the thing about giving people their own personalized Minecraft server that is at the same time connected to a larger network of Minecraft servers is Minecraft is really not built for that kind of permission sandboxing. It doesn't want you to give someone full godlike power in one place but not in another. Mm-hmm. And so I discovered early on that a lot of things were hard coded into the game to only work if a player had the highest permission level, which we can't give people that. Op is what it's called for operator. And I was like, we can't give people that because that is full access to literally everything. They could just take over the entire server. But also, the game literally won't let us do things unless they have this. And so I ended up having to learn how to fork the server that we were using in order to patch that out and allow anyone with an assignable permission to do those actions. And I was like, really, this is the game. You literally can't do this in any other way. And so I did that. I submitted a PR and they were like, who is this for? Like, what is this? They kind of didn't see the value in it. And so I just left that. But yeah, we're running our own fork with some security patches. There was also a bunch of things of like, you can make players execute other commands. And so there was always security issues of making someone with higher permissions execute a command you couldn't run. And so I had to patch that out by just filtering kind of command execution for other players. Lots of patches like that.
All right, so the game required God mode, in order to do certain things. You couldn't get around it. So your way of problem solving was, I'm just going to fork the server.
Yeah, I was like, all right, we're now going to run our own custom build of the Minecraft server.
And now how does that, forgive me for not understanding, I haven't played a lot of Minecraft, so how does that impact everything else? Is this only on your server that this happens and they play there? Or what happens with like other Minecraft worlds?
Yeah, so that's a fork that's really only useful for us because no one else is running a server where they give people kind of full developer permissions.
Mm-hmm. All right, so my question was about how this impacted other Minecraft servers. So this only works on your server, so here's your chance. Give us kind of the 15-second pitch. Why do people want to play on Logan and Remy's Minecraft server versus some of the others?
Basically, if you already know how to use the tools built into Minecraft, or if you want something that is cross-applicable in other areas, this server is kind of an easy way to get started, or to use skills that people already have with this built-in scripting language. And it's also a place to share that, because the thing about Minecraft's built-in scripting language, it's hard to distribute. People don't know how to download data packs. And so this is a place where if you make a multiplayer game, you can actually get players because there's a community established. You know, as a kid, when I spent a year working on that Minecraft server with commands, nobody played it because I couldn't get it out into the world. Whereas now, here's a server. If you make this on our server, people will be able to find it and enjoy it.
That's nice. Do you find, and then I want to get into some questions with you, Logan, about how you do all the interconnects, but do you find that with your YouTube channel that you are getting a lot of people coming on and wanting to explore and experiment with what you can do on your server?
Yeah, we've got a really remarkably good community. I have mostly been doing development. I haven't even done that much marketing since its launch. I'm going to change that in the next couple months. Okay. But even still, we've had, I think, 6,000 players join overall, which is pretty good for a Minecraft server. We've got a solid community of a couple dozen users who are on there pretty much every day.
That's amazing. Good job, guys. All right. Well, so Logan, now back to you. So y'all went and y'all forked Minecraft. You created your own server. How did you handle kind of the interconnects that happen between all of these systems, between your forked server, Docker, databases? What did you do there? What was your mindset?
Yeah, so I was looking around in the month or two since between when it was pitched to me and when I came up with the prototype, where I was going, okay, how am I going to architect this? What is the most sustainable, scalable way to do this? And I was looking around, and it was looking like Docker was going to be the easiest way for me to connect all these systems and basically, it's run a small scale cloud environment where I can spin up servers and spin down servers on hardware that I control. And so I had never used Docker at that point, so it was time to learn it. And so I spent time learning how it works, learning how the networking works, finding the projects for running Minecraft servers on it that other people in the community had already developed, making sure that all interface together. And then once I kind of understood it, I said, okay, I need a way to control it essentially from Minecraft. But I don't actually want Minecraft to be the one interfacing with Docker and having, essentially root level access to the server. And so I'm going to take what I know, which is web development, which is going to be the quickest way we can get this prototype together, is if I build it on the tech that I know. Right. And so I just threw together an Express, a Node.js Express API, hooked it up to, or used the Dockerode library to hook it up to Docker so that I could control the containers. And then basically went, you want to start an instance? Great. Start all these different containers, network them together correctly, and then let Minecraft know that the server should be starting and this is its IP address. And then I went, is this good enough? Does this work? This should work. In my mind, this works and lets Minecraft know what it needs to know to go. And Remy, took it and went, yeah, it works. It passes all the data it needs. It connects everything. We can dynamically register and unregister servers from the proxy, send people around where they need to go. And yeah, looking back on it, REST API is probably not the best way to do it, but that's what I knew how to do at the time, and so that's what I built it on.
All right. Except for those great big red bugs, this is bad, right? Did y'all ever call it the TIB bugs? This is bad bugs.
Oh yeah, we had some bad bugs. Not so much bugs, but intended functionality of VS Code, of being able to execute code on our server. Which we kind of knew in the back of our minds was going to be an issue at some point, but the community let us know.
all of 30 minutes after launch for someone to run a fork bomb in one of our instances. We're like, thankfully, Docker, it only crashed the one instance.
Yeah.
But we're like, ooh.
Yeah, we're like, it'd be a good idea to not have this happen. And so we put some resource limits on it. We're like, you can only use this much memory, this much RAM, no overloading it, just so in case they did something, it wouldn't domino it. And then we went, let's try and, walk back some of the provisions if we can. And so eventually it was happening enough that Remy came to me and was saying, like, we can't band-aid this. Like, we need a way that they actually just can't execute bash scripts on our server. Please find a way. And so I was looking into it. I was going, is there a way to turn off basically all terminal integration? So that's with the debugger, that's with opening a terminal, turn it all off. I was looking on the code server GitHub. There were a few issues that were open in the past about wanting this feature that then they were saying, like, it's not a feature, but they said you can look here because this is where it should be. You might be able to find the hook in here to be able to disable it. I took about a day to get myself oriented with the build process and all that and finding where it was. And I found out if you just comment out the hook that accesses the terminal, it fixes it. No one can execute terminal code anymore. Built that. Put it in production, it fixed the issue, and now we're good.
That's great. Now, y'all say y'all got about 6,000. Where are y'all running this? Are y'all running this on servers in your basement? Where's the Logan and Remy data center sitting at?
We've got one dedicated server somewhere in Virginia.
Somewhere in Virginia.
And its entire specs, we looked for what was a server that had just a ridiculous number of threads. We were like, because Minecraft is single-threaded, and so we were like, all right, one thread per world. We're going to need a lot of threads.
And high-clocked threads, because Minecraft can't just take like a Xeon.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
So when this starts growing, what are your plans for scaling it up and keeping up with scale, or do you think you're kind of where you're going to be for a while?
Yeah, so that is the next big thing on my part. Is eventually we are going to hit a cap of we have more active worlds than we do threads. We have it capped right now, so we can't go over that. But we're going to hit a cap, right? What is it, 30, 32 right now?
Yeah.
Active worlds. So eventually we would like to have enough players where that is an issue. And we're going to need to scale. So I will need to learn Docker Swarm to be able to scale out to multiple machines in the same data center. I haven't done that rewrite because there were, at the time, more pressing issues that needed to get fixed, such as arbitrary code execution on our server and getting a backup system that works. But no, the next step for scaling out past 32 instances is going to be doing clustering, doing a cluster of machines, each with a highly clocked, high thread count CPU in order to distribute that load.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Well, and you kind of mentioned that there's not a whole lot of crossover between Minecraft and tools like Docker. I mean, why do you think that is? And are you looking at anything from an alternative? Are you looking at Kubernetes or anything of that set to maybe help with some of those issues?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think a lot of people who kind of get into coding with Minecraft kind of get in as like a means to an end, where they're like, I want a Minecraft mod that does this. I want to add my awesome emerald pickaxe to the game. This is the best idea I've ever had. And a lot of kind of tutorials and stuff that are aimed at beginners really focus a lot on the how and not as much on the why. And I think it's very hard to bridge that gap. It takes a concerted effort that I think a lot of developers may not realize they need to make if they want to do harder things. Because I kind of had that where I was like a decent developer. I just programmed a ton as a hobby. And then I was like, all right, I need to like lock in and get better at this. So I took weirdly some like beginner programming courses just to really round things out. Because I was like, I didn't know like big O notation and stuff like that. And I think these kind of tools are very much targeted at professionals who have this knowledge of stuff. And so if you're a beginner who's maybe not used to that type of environment, it might be like, oh, it's easy, just clone this Git repository and build it and then start up a Docker instance of this thing. And you're just like, what? Hello? What are you talking about? What even is any of that? Yeah.
Exactly. As soon as the buzzwords start getting thrown around, I think you lose a lot of people because they're like, this doesn't have anything to do with Minecraft. This other guy tells me how to do it in Notepad++, and I'll do it there.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's pretty much, that's common across starting up in anything. There's almost like a lot of people that are out there that are doing these things have this perception that people are going to understand what I'm talking about kind of at a base level, and you don't. And I think, and I'm wondering, Remy, I'm guessing this is kind of where your YouTube channel comes in handy, being able to try to take some of that, explain it out, come in with Logan's expertise to say how he's doing this stuff, put that as a tutorial for people to really walk through. So maybe they're not wanting to go that Notepad++ way. They want to do something a little bit more experienced, but you're helping explain those things out.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's definitely kind of my enjoyment of teaching things makes me very aware of how much people don't know, where I'm like, you know, a surprising number of developers out there probably don't have a good grasp of like a file system and stuff like that. Like,
yeah, that's the interesting thing.
A lot of these things that are just assumed.
And it's stuff like that that helps kind of democratize and put this information out there where we get more people in. Like I said, we're watching where Minecraft has experienced, you know, it's kicked off some really cool projects. Code Server. We interviewed a guy about a whiteboard IDE that's called PadWS. What you guys are doing to kind of help bring new guys into the development in Minecraft. This is where it starts. You never know where what you guys are doing today may kick off the next big idea. You really don't. I think that is a possibility.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into kind of, you know, taking the leap here. You guys are going to launch this. You had mentioned before that this was probably one of the most complex projects that you guys have ever really jumped in and ran before. What was it like kind of making the decision to saying, yeah, we know this is out there. We want to do this.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I think the conversation was mostly, it was like, okay, we could launch this. We can make it a big thing. And then we went, all right, instead of saying, like the main thing was, what's the worst that could happen? How bad could it be? The worst it could be is no one plays on it. And the server shuts down because we don't want to keep paying for it. The best that can happen.
The worst that could happen is someone uploads the full movie of Shrek into our data center and then we get sued into oblivion by DreamWorks.
No, that would be the worst one, but that's fine. We fixed that because they could only upload the Shrek GIF that's highly compressed because we limited the file size people could upload.
So Remy's the worry wart. I'm taking that, right? Remy's the one that gets he gets a little nervous.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, you say you'll say things that I'm like, oh shoot, you're right. Oh, the DMCA. Oh, the legal issues.
Yep. I'm guessing y'all didn't build a lawyer into your project plan for doing this, so.
No, not terribly.
No, not terribly, and not yet. Eventually, we will need one once there's, you know, anything to go after. Anything that's worth suing us for. But at this point, the server's not profitable. So,
gotcha.
Well, it's not profitable. We haven't.
It's
lost
not
money
profitable. But we haven't made profit. Yeah. We have broken even. We have kept the server running.
You know what? That's not a bad start. Look at how many companies go in there that just get to their eyeballs in debt. Yeah. At least you guys you're maintaining your level of inclusion here. That's awesome. I think that's a win.
Yeah.
Exactly. We don't no VC funding here. Straight out of pocket in the community.
Maybe someday. I heard you knocking on the table when you said the VC words. But y'all talked about some of these weird things. One of the things that really caught my eye in kind of the pre-interview that we did is y'all talked about something that y'all called the New Year 24 DDoS incident, and where Remy got this degree in Wireshark. I want to hear this story. What happened, and what did you learn there, Remy?
So basically, the server had been in kind of a secret open beta for a while, for like a month or so, as we worked out some of the really severe bugs.
Wait, hold on. Secret open beta.
It was announced only to people who were in my Discord server. It
Gotcha.
wasn't announced
Okay.
on the YouTube channel.
Gotcha. Okay.
So anyone who saw it was welcome to play on it, but it wasn't like publicized. And then I made the decision to announce it with a big announcement video. And so we got a huge spike of players. You know, we went from like 5-10 players online to like 90. And within about a day, everything was breaking. The server would, every 30 minutes or so, kick everyone off the entire network. Worlds would get randomly scrambled around. Like, you'd click a button to join one world and it would just send you somewhere else. And then, like, even with the admin commands, even if we were like, all right, send me directly to this server with this ID, it would send you to the wrong world. And then worlds were getting stuck open, and it was a disaster. And we did not know what the heck was going on.
Yeah, because we were going, it worked on a smaller scale. When we had like 10 players, we weren't having any of these issues. These bugs didn't show up at all. And so we were going, where could these be coming from? Like, obviously we have some glaring bug in our code, some terrible race conditions somewhere that are causing this, but we don't know where.
And so we started looking around. We started looking at our various graphs and stuff, and we found that whenever the players would all get kicked off of the network, there was a huge spike in outgoing data. And we were like, wait, what? Huge spike in outgoing data? What is this? And it was clearly correlated. So then I was tasked with find out what this spike is. I was like, you know, naturally I was like, oh, I wonder if we're getting DDoSed. But I was like, this is outgoing data. Clearly not. Like, are we, like, my thought was we got hacked and now we are being used to DDoS someone else.
Yeah,
like, that was my concern.
And so we were, in the beginning, we were both looking around for this issue. We were going, oh, we're hacked, you know, let's make sure no one's running anything malicious on our server. But then I had to go away. I was going out of town. And so that was over New Year's, and I passed it off to Remy. And I said, if you can figure out while I'm gone, great. If not, I'll be back in like 4 days.
And so we had just launched the server. We had people banging at the door like, we want to play on the server, but it literally was just broken. Like, people couldn't get on the network. And so I tried every type of command line data logging tool on the market. I just kept increasing the scope. At first I was like, all right, let me just look at HTOP. Let me just see, maybe there's like some process that's using too much network. And nope, that wasn't the case. So I was like, all right. Then I tried using something called net data to like log it. And it showed that there was a huge spike in data that was kicking everyone off. And I was like, I can't figure out what the hell is going on. And so finally I was like, all right, the nuclear option in my mind, where I was like, if this doesn't work, nothing will, was going to be to learn how to use Wireshark, which, if anyone doesn't know, is like a packet sniffing logging tool. So you log literally all the data that is coming in and out of your machine, every single connection, all the background services, everything in just a big file, and then you look at it. And so my routine became, I would wake up at 8 a.m., I would have breakfast, I would sit down, watch Wireshark tutorials, and then I would go and like try to gather the data, and then I would do that all day until 9 p.m. and then repeat. And eventually I watched a bunch of Wireshark videos. I really learned how to do it. I logged all the data, and then I looked at it. And immediately, as soon as I looked at the data, even just from like following a quick tutorial, something was wrong. We were making hundreds of thousands of connections that were just SYN packets. And so I was like, all right, I Googled too many SYN packets. Why? And it turns out that that is in fact one of the most common forms of DDoS attacks. It's a SYN flood. And I was like, oh, we are getting DDoSed. So then why do we have this outbound spike? Turns out that graph was from the perspective of the network router in the data center we were using. So that was the router sending a spike of data to us.
Right.
And I was like, oh, it is a DDoS. So then we got in contact with our hosting provider and we're like, hey, we're getting DDoSed. And their response was, no, you're not. You're not getting DDoSed. You're fine. You're not. And I was like, we are. Like, this is not regular. Your servers are crashing. And what we ended up having to do was switch providers because we were using at the time the cheapest server host that we could find. And their support was just unbelievably terrible. It would take like days to respond.
Yeah, and I know you shopped around and you found a new company who had servers that we wanted, the servers we wanted, that was specifically like geared towards Minecraft. And they said they have like, custom tooling and DDoS protection. They said DDoS protection. We're like, okay, that's something. And so you emailed them and you're like, our last company did this. What do you think about that? And they're like, your last company was bad, and here's the reasons. Like, that shouldn't have happened. I don't know what they're on. Here's our suite of how we protect it. Like, we have a plan for this.
So you had to take that as a little bit of a badge of honor that we launched the server and apparently we're good enough that somebody wanted to come in and attack us right off the bat, right?
Yep.
Not even give you a chance to kind of build up a little ego. Let's just try to kick them in the knee as soon as they start running.
Still no idea what happened. I'm still not fully convinced it was targeted at us. I think it may have been targeted at the server host.
Or at the previous tenant of our box.
It just doesn't make sense, but it did coincide with our server launch, so there is that.
Yeah, because we were the main reason we had ruled out, we're not getting DDoS. We're like, who would DDoS us? I'm like, we have 100 players and it just started. There's no way it was a DDoS.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Remy does have 94,000 followers, so there's a lot of people that saw it.
And I was like, it didn't come with a ransom note. It didn't come with a political statement. I was like, what are you doing, man? What is the point?
That's awesome. So was this one of those things? I mean, 8 to 9, trying to figure this out, getting an education in Wireshark, which that's not an easy education to get. Let's be honest.
I was so scared of it.
Oh, so do you feel better about it now, or do you consider?
Yeah, Wireshark is awesome.
All right,
it's so cool, and I'm so glad I know it now. But oh my god, what an unintuitive piece of software.
Was this one of the things, because y'all had mentioned that you're bringing on a third developer, was this one of those things that helped y'all kind of, we need a little bit of help here instead of just the two of us?
Yeah, so the third developer we brought on is a guy who goes by Polish, and he actually reached out to me. He sent me a DM one day and basically just said, I really like your server, I really like playing on it, but like, it needs more features. It needs to be updated more. Like, I want the development to be faster. I know how to do it. Can I please work on it? And this was a unique circumstance because this was a person I had actually vetted before. I had a Minecraft minigame development team that was very short-lived, but he was on that team. And so I had talked to him and I had vetted his programming abilities a couple years in advance. And so he reached out and I was like, yeah, you can help out. And basically his audition to be a developer on the server was I gave him access to the code and I said, listen, if you can build this ridiculously convoluted multi-repository mess, if you can get this a development environment running, then you're good enough to work on the server. And also he was doing it on M1, like a Mac.
An ARM Mac, and so it was a different architecture than we built anything for.
Yeah.
Right.
And it took him 3 straight days, but he did get it running. And at that point, I was like, all right, welcome aboard. And he has been just instrumental in keeping the server alive because I've basically been able to outsource a lot of the maintenance and upkeep because as an actual user, he's running into the bugs and he's dealing with the quality of life issues. And so he's like, I'm going to go in and I'm going to fix this thing myself.
That's awesome. Congratulations, Polish.
It's been super helpful.
And how are people that are playing with you putting bugs in? Is this going through Git? Is this going through Discord? How are you finding bugs that need to be fixed? Or is this just Polish out there playing every day and finding stuff on his own?
At this point, it's basically just Polish taking reports from people. People have learned that I am not fast to fix bugs. If they want something fixed, they go to Polish. I'm like, I am now more on feature development and kind of again, project management, planning the bigger picture of stuff. But yeah, we have a Discord channel for reporting bugs.
All right. Well, features. What new features are you looking at? I mean, you're using YouTube. You're trying to attract new players. You're up to 6,000. Where are y'all wanting to take this? Where do y'all see the project going in the future?
I would really like to fill up the capacity of this machine, more or less. You know, I'm like, we have right now a lot of space on the server because we've basically just been working on the development side and we haven't been doing the marketing. So I'd really like to get some of the marketing pushed, get more reliable YouTube videos out there. And we just recently pushed an update that adds some custom commands that kind of integrate into Minecraft's vanilla features, because the built-in scripting language Datapacks is not the most powerful compared to other tools that are out there. And so we've now added our own commands into it that allow it to do things it couldn't do before. So stuff like that was kind of always planned, and now things are stable enough that we're able to start adding some of those features we've wanted.
How about you, Logan? I mean, we talked at scale, right? So I know you're always out there. You're always learning new stuff. Are you bringing any new skills into the game with what you're doing?
Yeah. So my, as I've said, my ability on the Minecraft side of things is extremely limited. I don't really know Java, and so I stick to my half of it, which is the infrastructure and the web half of it. And the two things that I'd want to do if we're gonna grow and expand is, one, fix the scaling issue, make it so that we can find out the best solution for scaling out to multiple machines, allowing us to have more than 32 running instances at a time. And then also probably going back through and paying all my tech debt, going through and rewriting my backend to make it more concise and readable, and potentially changing the architecture of it. But right now it's working, and so I'm a little afraid to touch it. And so we'll see if that actually happens.
All right, so you nailed on something there. We're going to bring in a contentious issue now, because you just made a statement that I want to see. You know, who knows? Maybe this will get y'all DDoSed again. You said that Kotlin is better than Java. Tell me why you think that is.
I strongly believe this. So Minecraft and everything is written in Java. I started with that, and it is just, I always tell people when I'm explaining to my non-tech friends what the deal is, I'm like, Java is a language that is designed with the absolute most modern, hottest programming trends of the 1990s. I'm like, it is just such a mess to write. The amount of boilerplate, the amount of instability with unmarked nullability. I'm like, that's really what comes with Kotlin, is the null safety, because there is nothing worse than a null pointer exception, and when you don't know what it's from. And so in Kotlin, it always warns you. It's like, if there's a possibility of getting a null pointer exception, you will know. And it's so fast and clean to write. It's so multi-paradigm. I love how it kind of just lets you do whatever, which is a scary amount of power sometimes. Sometimes there's so many ways you could implement an algorithm that you're like, okay, which of these is going to come back to haunt me in 6 months when I go try to reread my code? But it means that for, when you're doing complicated architecture stuff, your data structures, your hierarchies and things, you can really structure it however you want in your brain. Like, there's a lot of, first class functions being passed around and all sorts of stuff like that. It's a fantastic language, and it is my favorite programming language. And the only things that I dislike about it are things that it has to inherit from Java. So
now, we take these videos, we're going to cut these up into shorts. I guarantee you that little thing you just did right there is going to be a short. I bet it's going to get a lot of attention. And I can already predict you're going to have, Java guys coming in and saying, hey, guess what? We've got null safety now.
Modern Java has gotten better. All right. It's nicer than it once was.
I can't wait to see what this is going to do. I imagine at some point, Remy, we're going to have y'all back on, and I'm going to bring some Java guys. I'm just going to let y'all, 2 guys enter, 2 guys, one guy leave.
Yeah.
to see what happens, because this is going to be very interesting. I
The
predict
Java-
it's going to be a good short.
The Java Kotlin chess boxing tournament.
That's right. That's right. Today on the UFC. So that will be very neat. All right. Well, you know, looking at all of this stuff, I mean, I really, even though I'm not a Minecraft player, I appreciate what you guys are doing, because you're solving a real problem for Minecraft players, that, you know, you're lowering that barrier for people that want to learn development to come in and do that. I think that's important. You talk about your community. Community is huge. Community makes everything. So, you know, was this, you know, kind of bringing in, lowering the barrier for developers, building the community, was that something that was always a part of what you're wanting to do? And are you looking at anything like AI or any other additional methods to try to even make that even a lower barrier?
I would say lowering the barriers for getting into programming has always been a big part of what I like to do, just because as a kid, I remember getting into programming, and it helped because my dad was a programmer. But I'm like, if I hadn't had that, it would have been a whole lot harder. You know, there's a lot of confusing stuff out there. As for AI, I'm like, that's the contentious issue. Everybody's got opinions. And I don't know. I think I don't know how I would fit AI into the project that we're doing right now. But I also don't think it's, you know, wholesale evil. I think we're really just going to have to wait and see how it impacts things like education, you know.
I think the fact that you're already seeing, like you said, it is a contentious issue. It's something that people are picking very extreme sides on, not a whole lot of middle ground. I think that is a pointer towards the fact that it is going to be something that changes the tech landscape, just like the dot-com bust or dot-com boom did. We're going to see AI do that today. Logan, I mean, what are your opinions? Have you tried AI? Have you used any tools like Cursor or anything to help with your development or help you learn something new that you didn't know?
Yeah, so during the main development of the server, I didn't use it. But more recently, I've started playing around with it. I use Olama to run DeepSeek locally, and I integrate that with Continue into VS Code. And sometimes it has useful autocomplete suggestions, and sometimes it gives me the most garbage code I've ever seen. And so, if it progresses, I think it could be useful as basically advanced IntelliSense, where it kind of guesses what you're going to try and write next, gives it to you, and it usually works. Right now, I've only had a handful of times where it's worked flawlessly, but I am interested to see where it's going to go in the coming years.
Yeah, I mostly use it in situations where I need either a specific algorithm that would probably take me 30 minutes to figure out in my head, or if I'm learning a new software and I just don't know what tools are out there, because it's really nice to be like, oh, how do I do this thing in this API? And it's like, oh, there's a function for that. And probably 40% of the time, it gives you the name of a function that hasn't existed for the last 6 years. And I'm like, what? This isn't helpful at all. But I remember when I was learning some stuff with MongoDB for this project, I wanted to make a trending page. And I was like, all right, how do I take all the worlds in MongoDB and kind of sort them by which ones have the most votes in the last 30 days? And it was like, oh, you can use aggregation pipelines. And then it gave me this giant brick of unreadable code. And I was like, there's no way that this does what I asked it to. And so I always check things when I get them from AI. So I went through and I ran it through MongoDB Compass instruction by instruction. I saw that actually, goddamn, that does do what I asked. And so I ended up just taking that whole piece of code and being like, yep, that'll do.
I think that's how AI keeps you around. You know, it gives you some bad stuff, but every once in a while it gives you that gem that's like, all right, I'm going to hold on. I'm going to keep coming back for a little bit more. Yeah. Yeah. Well, what do you guys think? I mean, with what you're doing with Minecraft, like I said, I think this is a great project to really bring developers in, get them started. Do y'all see what you're doing have anything, you know, beyond any applications beyond Minecraft?
I could see how it could take people who are interested in Minecraft, interested in making things in Minecraft to share with others, and then getting a taste of what it's like to have a dev environment, to have VS Code, to have these real tools to use to make your things, and then go, it's not as hard as I thought. Like the tutorials made it seem harder and more convoluted, but I can do this. And then if we can spur on and inspire people to then want to look more into development and look more into the tools and the different ways they can use their computer that they already have, then I think that could have an impact, as people who are more informed about technology have an impact.
Yeah. Remy, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think for this project right now, I haven't really looked at it for scopes outside of Minecraft, because that's what my audience is built around. That's what I know. But absolutely someday it would be nice to expand into other realms and stuff. Working with Minecraft can be a limiting factor, but it's also those limitations that make it interesting.
Well, and like I said, I don't even know, whether you guys move past or not. I think the real advantage here is you're giving guys a taste. You're giving guys, hey, we're just two friends. We got together, we found something we loved, and we ended up making this project to help bring other people in. Hopefully that inspires other people to go out and do the same thing. Who knows? There's another dynamic duo out there sitting there, got a great idea with another project. Maybe they're going to watch this, see what you guys did with Minecraft. They're going to do the same thing. You guys were the inspiration for that. Yeah. And if that's the case, I mean, what advice would you give to somebody that, has this crazy little idea like you guys did, that they want to combine their hobby with something and get other people interested like you've done?
I would say if you're kind of a advanced hobbyist developer looking at doing something like this in some way, I would say at one level, go for it. Also find a collaborator if you can. I would not have gotten this far without Logan and now without Polish. And also make sure you have sound fundamentals. I see a lot of people going into projects like this without really knowing what they're doing at all. And the secret is that you can find out what you're doing relatively easily. Like when I was like, I'm going to need a database, I spent a couple days learning about MongoDB database architecture, and then I had just enough that I could do it.
Yep.
But yeah, I see a lot of people just kind of diving directly in, and I'm like, yes, dive directly in, but also do your research.
How about you, Logan? Any advice?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, on the flip side, it's do your research, but also, this is contradictory advice, don't get completely caught up in the research. Don't be like, I don't know everything. I haven't read the entire, wiki page about MongoDB and every piece of documentation, so I can't work with it. It's like, at a certain point, you learn by doing. You go in, you start working on it, you're going to find a spot where your knowledge is lacking, you can't get any farther, you're going to do research, you're going to figure it out, and that's fine. This is a low-stakes project. This isn't medical software that's going to keep people alive. It's a learning experience.
Yep. There's a statement, y'all will hear me if you ever watch me, I say it all the time. Perfection is the enemy of done, and done is rarely perfect. I couldn't agree with you guys more. Sometimes you just got to get something out there. Once you do, you'll figure out what you need to fix. If you're trying to make everything work, out of the box, perfect 100%, you'll never get anything done, and you just get stuck in kind of the quicksand there. Yeah. Well, Remy, most people can find you on your YouTube channel, Legitimoose. Everybody that's out there, go out there and make sure that you're taking a look at that if you want to learn more about Minecraft. Anything else you want to say on that topic?
Go to Legitimoose.com, buy a rank, spend $1 million in our store. Thank you.
Like and subscribe.
Doesn't even matter if you play Minecraft. Just come on there, join the server, buy a rank for like 3 random 15-year-olds. It'll be a great time. Well,
that's right. Give them out as gifts. Yeah. And Logan, you don't really have any social media that you want to promote, but if people wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
Yeah, I'm in the Legitimoose Discord server. I'm connected to the project. You can ping me in there. It happens every once in a while. Everyone thinks that I don't exist. It's a running gag where because they'll ping me and they're like, don't ping him. He doesn't exist. And every once in a while I come in and I send a message. But yeah, no, if you've got something, if you want to just like know more about the server, if you're interested in learning about it, I'd be more than happy to to talk about it because I like this stuff. I like talking about it. I can't claim to be, the end-all be-all expert on it, but I can tell you what I know.
Yep. All right. Well, you heard it here. Get on the Discord. Go get in the YouTube channel. Leave some stuff. Logan really doesn't exist. He's not a Remy bot that Remy just put out there to answer questions he didn't
He's
want
real.
to. He's real. He's a real boy, right? So, so that's awesome. All right, guys. Well, before we get out, any final thoughts or anything that we didn't cover that you guys want to bring up before we sign out?
I think that's all from me.
Yeah.
No, I don't have anything I'm dying to cover.
All right. Well, Logan, Remy, I want to thank you for joining us today. I mean, it's a great conversation. It's something that I think is going to be beneficial to a lot of new developers, Minecrafter, or just developers in general. Thank you for being on the show. I think what you're doing is really great. I love the fact that you're trying to build a better community. I love the fact that you're bringing in new developers. You're trying to make things easier for them. I think that's awesome. I think that's what this is all about. And, likewise to all the listeners out there, stay tuned. Stay tuned for new episodes where we're going to be bringing in more community members like Logan and Remy. We're going to be bringing in new tools, leader stories, or even some ideas just to improve the lives of developers. So until next time, you take care and happy coding.